Hey everybody, in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to build a second camera into your Ineisis world. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. The first thing you're going to do is create in your main client class a minicam camera reference. I call it minicam, call it whatever you want, but basically this is the camera that will display a miniature view of the world in the upper right hand corner. So put it in main there, global, so you can reference it. And now the client is what controls everything on the screen. So we're not touching the server today. So the place we need to go is actually the game class. This does all of the drawing and updating in the whole world for the client. So this is a logical place to start. And if you find a function called draw game, this is what does all the drawing onto the screen. You can see here the render. And this is the function we want to overload in order to build a little mini map or a little mini camera onto our screen. So the first thing we want to do is actually save. Actually, the first thing we want to do is save reference to the current camera, because since there are two cameras, you could have saved two cameras in the main, but instead let's create a local copy of the camera here, so we don't lose the main camera that the player looks at. So main camera. So now what this does is store a reference to the main camera before it renders the game. So simple as that. So this will render the main world you normally see in Ineisis. Nothing's going to change about this. The next thing we want to do is take that minicam that we created and set it. So with minicam.set, this will set this as the active camera for the world. So once you have this, you now want to have to render the world with setting calling the render game function again. So if you call this function, this will render it. Now the problem is though, this will just render over the current game, which won't do us what we want to do. What we want to do is offset this view into the upper right hand corner. And to do that, the first thing to do is define where we want it to be drawn with a rectangle. So I created a rectangle I call minimap, and basically what it does is take the maximum view, which is the upper right hand corner, and minuses it from 20% of the total view, and bound that by the max. So essentially the upper right hand corner will be the max, as is today, so this upper right hand corner, and the bottom left hand corner will be 20% of the total view, about this much. So that should do what we want to do with the rectangle. Now that we have the rectangle defined, we need to tell the application or Esenthel that that is our rendering window. And to do that, all you have to do is do display dot view rectangle and pass the minimap in there. So this will say, now define my display port as a smaller port defined by minimap's dimensions. That should do it, actually. What we want to do also though is after this, we want to set back the main cam so that the next render pass will use the main cam. And it's also important to do the view rectangle.null. So this will actually set tell Esenthel explicitly that we want to use the default rectangle again. By setting to null, it will redefault to whatever the current user's screen size is. And with that, that probably should do it. Let's go ahead and start a server and see what happens. So start the client. Okay, it's a little dark, the sun's not up yet, but you can see in the upper right, I have a little viewport, and if you look very, very closely, it's probably hard to see on your screen, but you can see a little me flying towards the camera there. Oh, a little too close. So that works. The camera is in place, and I can now walk around and view myself. One thing I forgot to show you actually is I had already set the location of the camera. Let me show you how to do that really fast. But you can see it seems to be working. I can move the screen. I can maximize the screen too, because we use the viewport. It'll actually be static, which is a handy feature, so that the device display doesn't matter. It'll always take up the top right hand portion. So that's exactly what we wanted. Now As part 2, what I was curious about is I'd like to be able to see this camera and move it around, which I can't do right now. This is static standing here. And I'd like to be able to move it around and see where it is in the world. So let's do that right now. Exit this. So as I mentioned, what I had to do was show you in the init function up here. Right here in init game, I just set the mincam set at, so I put it 10, 10, 10, and looking at, you see this is a from and a to, so I did it from 10, 10, 10 to 0, 0, 0, which is why we had a static camera there, so don't forget to do that if you're trying to reproduce this tutorial. So declare and then set it as a position in the init function to 10, 10, 10. But again, that's kind of boring, it doesn't move around, so what I'd like to do is be able to move it. And draw it. So the first thing let's do is try to go ahead and draw. So back to our draw function. So just before we render just after we render the full game in the normal view, we want to overlay a drawing, a simple drawing of a pyramid onto the screen. So to do that, let's create the pyramid function that Esenthel defines. It takes in just basically the scale, the height, and the vector. So the scale I put is 0.5, 2 times the height. So what you want to do is this minicam, take the matrix dot position, and that will be the location, the position of the pyramid. And to point it in the right location, you want to normalize, which is what this exclamation point does. You want to do the matrix of the at, and the camera dot at basically shows you what the camera is looking at. So it returns a vector of what the camera is looking at. So the camera.at minus the camera.position. So it basically turns the pyramid towards the location. And it's important to normalize it, or else you're going to get bad results. So make sure you don't put this apostrophe, this exclamation point here to normalize the vector you're going to get as a result of this vector math. And then do a simple draw function on that pyramid, so you can draw it. The color I chose is blue, and I do not want to fill it in. But what's really, and also what we're going to do with that pyramid is point to where it's pointing to. So if you just do a simple edge between the position and the looking at camera, this will draw a simple line between the middle of the pyramid and where it's looking. So from the pyramid to where it's looking, saying blue, not filled. Now there's one really important thing to do first. Since this is just render the game, it's going to render all the objects and leave the matrix in the same location of the last object drawn. So you have to do a set matrix before this, which will reset it to the identity matrix, which is very important, or else you're going to get some very strange results with this. So with that, I should be able to draw my pyramid. But what I also want to show you is I want to move it around at the XY plane. So to do that, let's go ahead and modify our control input section. So if I go down to my player class, this controls all movements of the player. I'm just going to leverage this for now just to hack some controls for my fake little camera. Where's this control section? Here, the actions. What I want to do is create this small little function here and use the arrow keys. So keyboard up, down, left, and right. And I want to move it along the x-axis with the left and right keys, and the z-axis with the down and up keys. I'm not going to move it up and down for now. So just basically minicam plus equals vector, left, right, up, down, which should just give me simple controls over the camera. So with that being done, I think I'm ready to go. Let's see. Hopefully no compilation errors. I got a compilation. Oh, no, my server is still up. So try that again. Okay, server good. Okay, I should be looking for a blue camera. There it is. You can see my blue camera. It appears to be pointing in the right direction as well. You can kind of move towards it. The blue edge here points to right where it's looking at. So now I should be able to move this with my arrow key. So press up, yep, up and down moves it along the is it x-axis, and then I think z is left and right. But either way, so you can basically move through. You can see the viewport in the upper right is moving around. I can go through things, no collision on it. I can move through these little windmills. But yeah, that seems to work pretty well. So now I can, obviously from here I could add controls for my orientation, my my pitch, my yaw. But right now that's basically all I wanted to do, was be able to create a simple camera that I can have control over and move in the world, and I can do that with this. So I hope this helps somebody. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm Osmodian on the Esenthel forums, and feel free to let me know if you want any clarification or additional tutorials. Thank you.